Hi guys, good evening. I've had a chance to meet all of them backstage and discuss some of the things, and I'm sure it's going to be an interesting conversation. First of all three of them represent three different fields in retail. You, sir, are in apparel, fashion apparel, yes. Footwear, Metro Brands footwear predominantly, and then of course DLF retail, which is malls and real estate. So the opening point that I want to make about single view is something which I think all of us have done from the first day that we've been alive on this planet, right? It's something that we naturally do as human beings. We understand our environment. We try and make the most of our communication skills. And of course, the people who matter or the elements that matter to us, we start understanding whether there's a trend over there, whether we can understand what are the likes, dislikes, and other patterns that we can follow to make our life more successful and more result-oriented. Saying that, I would want to get some of the opinions out and about with you guys. So first of all, I think my first question is to Mr. Raj Gopal. What is single view as per your understanding?
Hi. I assume you mean a single view of a customer, because one can also look at a single view of a store as to what is happening and comparing it with other stores that you have. Now, a single view of a customer is basically a collation of all interactions or business events that have happened with a particular customer, okay? Also, hopefully identifying with a single key, typically a mobile number, with further segmentation of what are the different avatars of shopping that have happened, because the truth being that a single mobile number in the house gets used for procurement from your dada dadi all the way to the grandchildren, right? And trying to make sense of it from a point of view of a business benefit for an organization.
Excellent. So that's a good point actually. I think a lot of us as marketeers feel that, a single number, and we see what kind of purchase patterns that number has followed, but it's actually a varied number of people who have shopped under that mobile number, and that's where the dilemma actually begins. I want to understand, Amrith, from your end as a mall per se, how do you look at single view? Because you have so many brands, you have so many customer requirements that you fulfill. In fact, even parking patterns could be a part of your single view, journey. So how do you look at it as a real estate partner, as a, somebody who offers space for retailers?
Yeah, I think from a mall perspective and from DLF perspective, the single view is kind of like a unicorn or a pipe dream that hasn't happened. But I mean, imagine this, like you said, from the time a car comes into the parking, the number plate is read, we know where it's coming from. In our case, it's from Delhi, Noida, or Gurgaon. The person comes in, walks in through the security cameras, the cameras are scanning his or her thing, able to identify through facial recognition. And then the person goes and shops in the malls, then you have the mobile number being given out, and then that mobile number is then, tied back to that customer's identity. For me, a single view of a customer would be to be able to chart the entire customer journey across the mall, from the parking to the brands to the food court and out again. And to have that entire view of whether a Starbucks customer ends up going to the food court and shop and eating some food, whether a Zara customer at the end of their shopping would buy accessories more than a non-Zara customer. So for me, it's an entire customer journey of a mall customer and what all touch points he or she would shop. But unfortunately, we don't have that view right now. Like I said, it's a bit of a unicorn, because for a true single view of a customer, at least from a mall perspective, we need everybody to work collaboratively. We need the brands, we need food and beverage, we need the food courts, all of us to come together and say that, listen, we trust each other. We're going to share this information to have a holistic view of the customer, not to spam him, but to understand the patterns and to be able to recommend and give, worthwhile marketing inputs to that customer to better the business. Unfortunately, that we haven't reached that level of maturity yet in the industry.
So if I had to look at it, I think from a real estate or a mall perspective, you look at the B2B single view of a customer, which would be a set of brands like ours, and then of course enable us to set up shop at the right location, on the right floor, the right size, and then push consumers into the store and of course then convert. Is that correct, or is there another way that you look at it?
I think it's B2C at the end of the day, because how a mall makes revenue is when the brands like yourself, when you sell more, the mall actually earns, because most of the malls are on a revenue share. So for your example, I would say like a consumer of a Pepe jeans, wouldn't you like to know if a Pepe jeans consumer is then shopping at a footwear brand, is also likely to have a Starbucks coffee because they feel good about the nice jeans that they wore? So would you then have a tie-up with a Starbucks to say that anybody who buys a Pepe jeans gets a Starbucks voucher? It's a quid pro quo over there. Or it's highly likely that somebody eating at the food court at a health food this thing is likely to shop jeans later on because they're feeling good about their choice of diet lunch. So hence, could Pepe jeans give some vouchers at that diet food place to cross-pollinate this thing? So that's the kind of insights we're talking about. It's purely D2C is what I would see.
Interesting. I think that's probably going to be the next round of negotiations between the mall and the brand when we come to sign a space with you guys. Sathish, for you, I mean, I understand that offline and online are two separate customers. They overlap at times as well. How do you differentiate single view for an offline customer versus an online customer? Because I'll tell you why. For me, when I look at a customer for Pepe jeans or a consumer of Pepe jeans, I look at what he likes and follows and interacts with on Meta, right? So I define my consumer saying, okay, he follows Virat Kohli or he follows, say, KTM motorcycles. And maybe that's the kind of cohort that I should live with. How do you look at it with your set of brands?
So, like you said, is this working? Hello?
Yeah, I think you'll have to get it a little.
Am I audible? Okay. Yeah, sorry. So, I think, like you said, there is definitely online, it's very easy for you to build a single view, because there is a very clear digital footprint of the consumer, be it on their social pages or be it on their browse behavior on your site or their purchase behavior. Of course, building that single view still, having the data is not that easy, because the customer becomes known only after a certain point. And there are many unknown users on your platform who may never become known at all, and therefore you're reliant on various signals which can be ambiguous to target or identify them as a customer or to cohort them. In offline, I think that challenge is even more complicated, because unless and until the customer makes a purchase, there is no footprint. Yes, of course, you have a lot of AI technology. You have, the ability to map them photographically or videographically and track them. But I still think that leaves a lot of interest or anything. I mean, okay, this customer walked to the men's shirts section, didn't like anything, and then went to the polos and then picked up something, but didn't buy. They picked up, but they dropped their purchase or whatever, and then they left. How do you cohort that customer? You really can't build cohorts offline. You can only build them post-purchase, post you collecting some information which they have to voluntarily give. In the online space, a lot of information is not voluntarily given, but there is a trail, there is a footprint that can be tracked. And I think that marks the biggest difference between online and offline single view. So two challenges. One is in the online, until they become known, how do you really understand and personify them? In the offline, how do you build cohorts of these customers? And the third thing is when there is an overlap, when there is the same customer shopping online and offline, how do you integrate your knowledge of them across the online and offline platforms?
Nice. I think that's an interesting point there. Gopal, from your perspective, how different is your online versus offline customer? Do you see the same purchase patterns? Do you see the same behavioral patterns? Do you see any trend there which is similar, or are they completely different?
Uh, Hello. Yeah. So in fact, surprisingly, the overlap between online and offline customers is not as significant as marketers would like to think. Yeah. In fact, it is quite small, right? And people who are comfortable, it's also a generation thing that is there that one sees very clearly. But that being said, the overlap is very little, right? Which also means that while everybody would like to have one view of customers, there is merit in specifically handling an offline intent versus an online intent in a different fashion. Now, I can only speak for a certain segment of the retail space. It could be different. It could be much more for, let's say, a consumer durables, wherein it's a known fact that there is a lot of online research that happens before you go experience it offline, and then you might still end up buying it online. Yeah. So it's different strokes for different folks over there. But as covered earlier by other panelists, the kind of breadcrumbs or signals which come in for online and offline are different. Online you have the advantage because the browsing pattern or the search keywords give an explicit view of what a person intends to buy, and you are also able to target them in much faster fashion as against an offline world wherein you have to still today depend on a diligent, intelligent and focused salesman to identify, okay, what is the intended purchase of the customer. Thank you.
Okay, that's a good answer. It's a very good answer. So Sathish, again, for you, would your offline strategy and online strategy be completely different?
In terms of marketing, I would think not extremely different. Primarily because as a house of fast fashion brands, who we target is living most of their lives in the digital space, is spending a lot of time in the social environments. So I think how we target them will not differentiate, but how we will measure the the impact of the marketing activity will be very, very different, right? In terms of, let us say, I can very easily build a proper full funnel approach for my online stores. I can say build awareness, I can say then drive them to the next step, I can get them to perform certain actions on my cart, I can then move them further down the funnel, eventually get the conversion, and then retarget them or remarket to them. However, in the offline, even if I use digital, first off, an offline customer is largely, compared to an online customer, more intentional. Because they have to make the effort to come to the store, there has to be a valid need for them to come. Even if that need is window shopping, the window shopping also comes with certain intent that there will be a shopping in the near future. In online it is not like that, right? The discovery is very, very accidental and ongoing all the time, and you don't know that for the same customer, which stage of the funnel that suddenly they switch to deciding to, complete the purchase. Which is why that the divergence starts post you actually communicating to them. So my offline customer, I would more, it's more in the messaging. I would communicate online, but the messaging would be slightly different. I would showcase and continue to build awareness and top of the mind recall. Whereas in the online, I will build more nudges towards each stage of the funnel.
Understood. Amrith, this one's for you. How do you drive footfall as a function or as the ultimate result of developing single view of a consumer?
I think, footfalls is a function of a lot of things coming together for a mall, but typically what you would see is that with our view of the customer, we know what are the triggers that drive consumers to a mall. So on a weekend, it's generally driven by the kids' choices of entertainment in the mall, and therefore the parents come around and there's a lot of impulse shopping that happens, or it's a intended purchase of a particular item and things like that. So there are cues that we give on social, on digital, with collaboration with the brands. Offers and promotions are a strong trigger for people to make that decision of, do I go to mall A or do I go to the neighboring mall B? So we try and walk the balance between promotion-led cues versus brand-led cues, and pure entertainment and option-led cues to get the consumer to the mall. So from our information of how many people frequent the food court to the cinemas to pure shopping, we try and stagger our messages also in the same proportion to attract the right kind of customer to the mall. And then the other big cue for people to come to the mall is the entertainment and, let's say, edutainment that we do now. So events in the mall atrium with celebrities, with opinion leaders, influencers also sometimes drive footfalls to the mall. So while it's not the mall telling the customer to come, it's actually the influencer or that particular celebrity telling the customer to come. Because we've seen, we've had 5 million walk-ins in a mall, but if you look at our social media, nobody wants to follow a mall page. So it's like 10, 20, 50,000 people who follow a mall page. And when a mall tells you something, you just probably swipe up. But when there's an influencer whom you deeply care about, where it could be a fitness, it could be fashion, it could be beauty, whoever, is saying that, listen, I'm going to be at DLF promenade on the weekend, and I'm going to be talking about the 10 beauty tips for the summer, and I'm going to be doing it at this particular store. So we're getting the retailer in, we're getting an influencer in, and we're getting the consumer in, kind of like the holy trifecta, as I call it, to get people to that the same. Because again, brand to consumer doesn't work as good as a peer to consumer or a influencer to consumer. So that's how we look at it. But I had a question for you. Given that Raj talked about the fact that the online offline confluence isn't much, how is it for Pepe Jeans? Is that overlap better, or what is it like?
So the reason I asked him that question is because it's not very similar for us too. But it also depends on the communication that we put out to get the consumer online versus offline, right? So the strategy that we drive for online is more about selling volumes, selling units, and now we are transitioning slowly from volume and units to fashion, because that was the start of the website. You acquire new consumers. So the objective of the whole exercise was completely different. Whereas offline, it's about fashion, it's about selling the right trends, it's about selling the right fits and so on. So that's why we try and do, how do I say, a little more of full price or a little more of, fashion-driven messaging. So for us, it's very different. It's very, very different. And that's why I wanted to ask him, because footwear is a category, you find the same product across different websites at different prices. You have a very clear understanding of your fit, your comfort levels and the rest. So that's why my question was directly to him in terms of understanding whether it's category specific, whether it's retail specific or otherwise. But it's very different for us. But I think it also is a factor of how we have approached the consumer. And now that the challenge is to get the consumer to move from, say, volume and units to fashion and trend, how do we build that single view and then start pushing the communication to the right audience? Gopal, did you want to add something?
Yeah. So footwear, in my opinion, is a very experiential item. Although you might like the look, the feel is equally important because it's supporting your full body weight. That being said, what the different genders have different footwear requirements, right? The occasion wear is much higher, right, in our better halves compared to what we buy. So all those have to be factored in, right? What sells in, let's say, Eid or Diwali might not sell the rest of the year.
True. No, I think that point about gender bias in terms of number of footwear is changing very rapidly. I see a lot of men having more footwear than women nowadays, if I'm, correct me if I'm wrong over there.
I hope it continues.
So Gopal, I have a question for you. how do you maintain or give consumers the confidence that their information is private and not overused, while also building a strong, customer profile? How do you do that as a CTO? How do you define the line between actually collecting all information and using limited information so the customer doesn't feel,
I think it's very important. The trick is in how you communicate back to the customer, right? Without creeping her or him out, right? So it's completely the domain of how you market the information that you have. I mean, if I get an email, because you bought this and this, we are recommending this, I feel irritated. I'll never buy that particular product.
Strangely, that's what all our remarketing tools tell us to do. Yeah, so.
They tell you, but how? It isn't necessary to communicate that you know that, right? So these are the new styles that have come in, right? And in the background, even I know that you have correlated, as a consumer, and also you know that I will know. But as far as you don't call it out explicitly and don't creep out the customer, it helps. Not starting to spam my various inboxes immediately after I visit, okay, also helps as a customer, right? If you give a certain time period after which the communication starts, right? Then if the intent is there still to purchase, it will get converted rather than trying and let's say at 2 in the night, if I go to a well-known insurance policy aggregator and I just put my mobile number, I don't have to do anything else. At 2 in the night, I'll start getting a call. Right? And somewhere when I put my mobile number, there might be a pop-up saying that I agree to be called 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. No, that is extremely creepy. Right?
There's a long list of terms and conditions which you scroll up and just say, I accept.
Absolutely.
No,
Sati, sorry,
just to continue with Singh, I think we're becoming an economy of spammers in a way, and we were talking about it in the lounge. Even WhatsApp, which is a wonderful tool, and all of us, I'm sure the entire room uses WhatsApp to communicate with their family, friends, and they have groups and all. But now,
Some even as we speak right now.
yeah, exactly. Some are obviously using it right now also, but just put your phones down. But even WhatsApp today has now become or is getting to a kind of a spamming kind of medium. I was just showing Raj the number of messages I received today. HDFC Life, Policy Bazaar are using WhatsApp again, and it's damn intrusive because I think my girlfriend's messaged me, but then it's it's HDFC, and we've grown away from that SMS generation where now nobody even looks at SMS. So today, WhatsApp is probably being used and abused. And to your question, I think we as marketers are fully responsible for the over spamming. So we really need to think as a consumer, am I happy getting a WhatsApp message asking me to go and buy a pair of shoes or a pair of jeans if I'm not in the market for it, if I have not initiated the conversation? I think it's very important for a brand to see where the intent is. Don't spray it like a machine gun and hope that one bullet will hit. Because then you're wasting your own money, you're pissing off the consumer, and you're not doing any justice to your sales. Maybe that one message that goes to that right intent customer is a much better way of spending your money rather than trying and going wide with it. You know what I'm saying? So I think there needs to be a fundamental change in the way we approach marketing. Right now, it's a funnel approach. Start with a wide thing, and then it narrows down, and hopefully you will get some percentages of it. But 1% of conversion means 99% of your consumers are either pissed off or don't even care about you. So where's the math?
So it's a very interesting number when you compare, when I compare my numbers from India to the numbers that we see in Europe and the other markets that we are present in, emails are extremely fruitful over there versus what they are over here. WhatsApp messages do not really exist because they believe in privacy and giving people their space. SMSs do not exist, so it's only emailers and newsletters where it's more information rather than just call to action saying this is the product, buy it or leave it. And traditional ways of communication, right? Although, yeah, I don't agree with that. I think you need to get closer to the consumer and try and make the most of consumers' intention to purchase. But yes, the open rates for emailers over there are upwards of 25% versus what, 8, 9, 10% over here. conversion on emailers over there go upwards of 7-8%. Here we are at about 2 or 3% at max. So yes, there's a huge difference there, and I think as brands, we are also responsible to see how we actually, make use and not over abuse the fact that consumers are sharing information with us, which brings me to the last part of the conversation. And I should have started with this, but I think it's a good point to end with as well. And Sathish, I think for a young brand, how do you go about developing single view? And I'm going to throw this word or this term out called CDP, right? We have a lot of agencies who call us every day saying, you need a CDP platform, we can service your requirement. For a young brand, how do you go about developing single view? I know it's important. Is it important to start off with single view right from the first day of existence? Or you look at a funnel view? Or then you just invest in a CDP platform and start from day one where you collect information left, right, and center and always be a targeted brand? What's your take on that?
So for the first year of our existence, we didn't have a CDP. But having said that, I think it's good for a brand to invest early on in CDP for two reasons. One is just the fact that there is so much information, right? You could lose it all very quickly if you don't have CDP, and can get very fragmented and unusable. And that truly, as a marketer or as a digital brand or a digital first brand, is the most valuable resource that you have. So if you are not going to be able to harvest that information, then it's a pity. So you should be able to. But CDP products, which in all fairness to anybody who's here from that segment, are not all equal, are not all cost effective, are not all intuitive to use directly. There is a lot of information that needs to be filtered out and built, rebuilt, cohorted a little bit manually before you can make sense of it. So I think that is one of the lacunae in the current CDP products available, and the fact that they are expensive. They are expensive also because the amount of data that they need to hold, process. So it's not just the CDP product itself, it's the server space and all of that costs. But if a brand can afford it, I would say that it is an absolute necessity. One of the most fun things for me when I look at data, especially from the CDP platform, is understanding the attribution metrics to look at what drove traffic, what then led them to look at product or then add it to a wish list or add it to a cart, and then eventually what led them to convert and how many touches. How can I make my marketing process more efficient, especially because we rely a lot on paid marketing. And if, say, a customer touches your website 7 times before they buy, how can the 6 of them become low cost as compared to high cost? But it's a very exciting way of looking at data, and CDP allows you to look at it. It allows you to build very complex cohorts. Simple cohorts are easy to make. The complex ones, only CDP data can help you make it.
Thank you all of you. I think you've shared some excellent insights, although the dilemma still exists, and it's a good dilemma to have. Exciting times for us as marketers with more and more information coming through, more and more cohort formations there. And I think that makes our life interesting, if not difficult, in the coming times. But yes, I think the only line that I would want to end this session with is being everything to everyone is never going to get you anywhere, right? You need to be something to someone, and that's what's going to hit the ball out of the park. It takes time. You need to invest in a consumer, but once you connect with the consumer, that's when the results start showing over a period of time. So thank you very much, guys. Do anyone in the audience have a question for the panel? Okay, we have a single view sorted in this case. So thank you very much, guys. Thank you everyone.